Have you ever been in the middle of a conversation with your teenage grandchild, or even your own child if you had them later in life, and you suddenly feel like you're speaking a different language? You say something simple, like, "How was your day?" and all you get back is a grunt, or a one-word answer, or they just stare at their phone as if you haven't spoken at all. And that feeling settles in your chest, this little ache of distance. You look at this wonderful, frustrating young person you love so much, and you think, "I just don't understand you anymore." It's a lonely feeling, isn't it? You have a lifetime of stories, of hard-won wisdom, of love you want to share, and it feels like there's no one on the other end to receive it. The house can be full, but if there's no real conversation, it can feel emptier than when you're all by yourself. Well, if you've ever felt that way, I want you to know two things. First, you are not alone. I've been there, sitting right where you are now, feeling that same confusion and heartache. And second, and more importantly, that gap between you and your teen? It's not a permanent chasm. It's a bridge that can be rebuilt. It just needs a different blueprint than the one we grew up with. That's what I'd like to talk about with you today. How to bridge that generational gap, not with grand, dramatic gestures, but with small, consistent shifts in how we connect. We're going to walk through 4 steps together, 4 ways to move from saying, "You just don't understand me," to hearing, "Grandpa, you get it," or "Dad, listen to this." And it all begins with the very first, and perhaps the most important, step, to stop talking and start listening. Now, I know what you're thinking. I do listen. And I believe you. But I want you to consider the kind of listening we often do. So often, when our teen is talking, we're not really listening to understand. We're listening to respond. We're listening for a problem we can solve, a lesson we can teach, or a mistake we can correct. Our minds are already formulating our wise advice before they've even finished their sentence. I'll give you an example from my own life. My grandson, Leo, he's 16, he came to me last year, really excited about a video game. He was going on and on about the graphics and the gameplay and some character with a name I instantly forgot. It was all jargon to me. And my first instinct? To tune it out. To smile and nod and think about what I was going to make for dinner. But then I saw the enthusiasm in his eyes. So, I decided to try a different approach. I stopped what I was doing, looked right at him, and I said, "Tell me more. What makes this game so special?" And I just let him talk. For 10 whole minutes, I didn't offer a single piece of advice. I didn't tell him about the books I loved at his age. I just asked questions. What's the goal? That character sounds interesting. What's his story? And you know what happened? He didn't just explain the game. He started talking about his friends who play it, about how it feels to be good at something, about the stress of school and how this was his way to unwind. I learned more about his inner world in those 10 minutes of focused listening than I had in the previous 10 weeks of asking, "How was school?" The goal isn't to become an expert in video games. The goal is to become an expert in your teen. And you do that by listening to what they're passionate about, even if you don't understand the passion itself. It's about creating a space with your attention where they feel safe enough to let you in. It's the foundation of everything else, and it's a skill we can practice every single day. Now, once we've started practicing that kind of deep, intentional listening, something interesting begins to happen. We start to see them differently. We see them less as a child we need to direct and more as a young adult who is finding their way. And this leads us quite naturally into the second step, which is about shifting our entire approach from being a manager to being a mentor. For so many years, our job was to manage their lives. We managed their meals, their bedtimes, their safety, their playdates. It's a hard habit to break because it's born out of love and responsibility. But a teenager's primary job, their developmental mission, is to learn how to manage their own life. If we keep treating them like a project to be managed, they will rebel, or worse, they'll retreat into themselves. Being a mentor is different. A manager gives orders, a mentor asks questions. A manager focuses on control, a mentor focuses on connection. A manager sees a mistake as a failure to be corrected, a mentor sees a mistake as a lesson to be learned. Let me give you a real-life scenario. Let's say your teen comes home with a less than stellar grade on a test. The manager in us, the part that's been running the show for over a decade, might jump in with, "What happened? I told you to spend more time studying. No more video games until you bring this grade up." Now, there might be a place for some boundaries later, but leading with that, it slams the door shut. The mentor, however, responds differently. The mentor takes a breath, sits down, and says, "That subject can be tough. What do you think went wrong, or how are you feeling about that grade?" This does two things. First, it shows that you see them as a person with their own feelings and thoughts about their performance, not just a vessel you need to fill with better results. And second, and this is the magic of it, it forces them to think about the cause and effect. It puts the responsibility back on their shoulders, which is exactly where they need to learn to carry it. You're not abandoning them, you're standing beside them as they figure it out. You're saying, "I trust you to navigate this, and I'm here to help if you need me." That is a powerful, powerful message of respect that they rarely get from the adult world. It tells them you believe in their capability, and that is a gift that will shape their confidence for years to come. So, we've laid the foundation with listening, and we've changed our role from manager to mentor. Now we come to the practical, everyday tool that makes it all come alive, and that is our third step: choose curiosity over interrogation. Now, what on earth do I mean by that? Well, let's think about a typical conversation. They walk in the door. We ask, "How was school?" That's a closed question. It's what I call an interrogation starter. It invites a one-word answer, "Fine." And then we're stuck. We've hit a conversational dead end before we even began. Curiosity, on the other hand, is open-ended and non-threatening. It's not about gathering facts, it's about exploring their world. Instead of "How was school?" try something like, "What was the most interesting thing that happened today?" or "Tell me about something that made you laugh." Or, and this is a great one, "Did you have any conversations today that got you thinking?" You're not demanding a report, you're inviting a story. I remember trying this with my granddaughter, Sarah. She's 14, and at that age where everything is a drama and nothing is to be shared with grandparents. I used to ask the same old questions and get the same old grunts. So, one afternoon, instead of asking about school, I said, "You know, I was thinking about my best friend when I was your age, Mike. We used to try to build go-karts out of scrap wood. They never worked, but we had a blast. What's the most fun you've had with your friends recently?" I opened up a little bit of my own world, and I asked a question that wasn't about performance or achievement, it was just about joy. She was quiet for a second, and then she said, "Well, last weekend, we were just being stupid and making these silly videos on my phone," and she started telling me about it. She even showed me one. It wasn't my kind of humor, I'll be honest, but that wasn't the point. The point was, she was sharing her world with me. I chose curiosity, and it opened a door that interrogation had kept firmly locked. It's about shifting from being a detective to being an explorer, and inviting them to be your guide. Now, all of this, the listening, the mentoring, the curiosity, creates a new atmosphere of trust. But there's one final step that solidifies it all, one that makes them feel truly seen and heard. And I'll be honest, this might be the hardest one for many of us because it goes against our protective instincts. This fourth step is to validate their reality, even when you don't understand it. Validation doesn't mean agreement. It doesn't mean you think their problem is the end of the world. It simply means you acknowledge that their feelings are real to them. Their world is different from the one we grew up in. The social pressures are amplified by social media in ways we can barely comprehend. A misunderstanding with a friend isn't just something that happens on the playground, it can be broadcast to hundreds of people instantly, leaving a digital footprint that feels permanent and humiliating. So, when they come to us upset because of something online, our first instinct might be to minimize it. "Oh, for heaven's sake, just turn off the phone. It's not real life." And while we're right, in a philosophical sense, that response completely invalidates the very real pain and embarrassment they are feeling in their real life. Here's the simple phrase that can change everything. It's this: "That sounds really difficult." Or, "I can see why that would be upsetting." Just try it. The next time they're venting about a teacher being unfair, or a friend being flaky, before you offer a solution, before you tell them what they should have done, just try saying, "Wow, that sounds really frustrating." You are not agreeing that the teacher is a monster. You are simply acknowledging that your teen feels frustrated. You are standing on their side of the bridge for a moment and looking at the problem from their viewpoint. When we validate their feelings, we build immense trust. We create a safe space. They learn that they can come to you with their big, messy, complicated emotions, and you won't dismiss them or try to immediately fix them. You will just be with them. And 9 times out of 10, that's all they really want. They don't need you to have all the answers. They need to know that you see them, you hear them, and you're not judging them for feeling what they feel. The goal of all this, in the end, isn't to create a teenager who obeys your every word. The goal is to build a relationship that can survive the teenage years and blossom into a lifelong, adult friendship. You are planting seeds now for the relationship you'll have 20 years from now. You're building the kind of connection where they'll want to call you when they're in their first apartment, navigating their first job, or falling in love for the first time. Because they'll know you're not just a source of judgment or instruction, but a source of unconditional support. So, I'll leave you with this. Don't try to do all 4 steps at once tomorrow. That's a recipe for feeling overwhelmed. Just pick one. Maybe this week, your only goal is to catch yourself before you give advice, and instead, just ask one curious question. Or maybe your goal is to use that validating phrase, "That sounds really hard," just one time. One small plank, laid down with love and intention, is how you build a bridge that lasts. This journey of connection is why I do this. Your stories, your struggles, and your successes matter deeply to me. So, if you feel comfortable, I'd be so honored if you'd share your experiences in the comments below. What's one small moment of connection you've had recently? I read every single message. If this conversation has resonated with you, if it's given you a little bit of hope, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me reach more wonderful people like you. Thank you for spending this time with me. From my heart to yours, I wish you calm, warmth, and genuine connection in your family. Take care.